Hey guys, tonight we are setting sail on the high seas during the great age of discovery. We're going to board a creaking wooden galleon, a vessel embarking on a months-long journey across the vast, uncharted wilderness of the ocean. But we won't be on the quarterdeck with the captain and his maps. We'll be down on the main deck with the common sailors, experiencing the back-breaking labor, the rancid food, and the brutal discipline that was the reality of life at sea. This is a story that begins with the routine misery of a long voyage, a misery that will, in hindsight, look like a paradise compared to the horrifying reality of a shipwreck. We'll feel the sting of the salt spray, the burn of the tarred ropes in our hands, and the gnawing emptiness of a diet that could kill a man just as surely as a storm. And let's be very honest, your survival odds on one of these voyages, even before the shipwreck, would be questionable at best. You, with your modern dependence on things like GPS, weather forecasts, and food that isn't actively wriggling with weevils, would likely be taken out by a bad case of scurvy or a sudden, unplanned encounter with the cat o' nine tails long before you ever saw a hostile coastline. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small click that makes a huge difference and lets me know you appreciate these explorations of our collective past. And, as always, I'd love to see where everyone is tuning in from. Please post your city or country and the local time in the comments. It's a wonderful tradition that connects us all before we set sail. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are not an explorer. You are not a conquistador noble with a royal charter. You are a poor man from a fishing village in Portugal, or a grimy port town in Spain. You have signed the ship's articles for one simple reason: desperation. The promise of a few silver coins in pay, a minuscule share of whatever plunder or treasure might be found in the New World, is a better prospect than the slow starvation of life on land. Or perhaps you are running from the law, or from a debt you cannot pay. The sea asks few questions, and a long voyage is a good place to disappear. So you find yourself here, on the deck of a great carrack or galleon, a floating wooden castle that is to be your entire world for the next year, or for however long it stays afloat. Your ship is a marvel of 16th century technology, a high-sided, multi-decked vessel designed to withstand the Atlantic and carry vast amounts of cargo. But it is also a cramped, filthy, and profoundly uncomfortable place to live. The first thing you learn is the smell. It is a complex and inescapable assault on your senses, the sharp, medicinal smell of the pine tar used to waterproof the rigging and hull. The damp, rotten egg stench of the bilge water sloshing in the ship's guts below you. The sour smell of unwashed bodies. The ammonia tang of the livestock chickens, goats, and pigs kept in pens on the deck and underlying it all. The clean, sharp scent of the salt sea itself. The second thing you learn is the noise. A ship is never silent. It is a living, groaning creature. There is the constant, rhythmic creaking of the timbers as the ship flexes with the motion of the waves. There is the sharp snap of the massive canvas sails as they catch the wind, the high-pitched whistle of the wind in the rigging, and the endless, percussive slap of the waves against the hull. And above it all, there's the noise of men, the shouted orders of the boatswain, the rhythmic chanting of sailors hauling on a rope, the clang of the ship's bell marking the change of the watch. The third thing you learn is the motion. The ship is never still. It is in a constant state of rising and falling, of rolling from side to side. For the first few weeks, you are desperately seasick, heaving your guts out over the rail along with half the other new recruits. You eventually get your sea legs, but a part of your body is always, unconsciously, braced against the next roll. You are an able seaman, a common sailor. You have no cabin, no bunk. You sleep where you can, perhaps in a coil of rope, sheltered from the wind by one of the ship's cannons. or on the hard wooden planks of the deck itself. Exposed to the rain and the night chill, your only possession is a small canvas sea bag containing a spare shirt, a wooden spoon, and perhaps a lucky charm. Your life is a cycle of hard, physical labor, divided into 4-hour shifts or watches. The work is relentless and dangerous. You learn to climb the rigging, your bare feet finding purchase on the tarred rope ladders, until you are 100 feet above the deck, the ship swaying sickeningly beneath you. Here, you must crawl out onto the yardarms to reef or furl the massive. Heavy sails, your life dependent on your grip as the wind tries to tear you away and fling you into the sea below. If you fall, there is no rescue. The ship has a very advanced safety protocol for when a man falls overboard. The protocol is to shout, "Man overboard," and then watch him disappear. The ship cannot stop or turn around easily, and you are simply gone. A brief splash in the vast, indifferent ocean, down on the deck. The work is about brute force. You haul on thick, abrasive ropes in teams, your hands raw and blistered, chanting sea shanties to coordinate your efforts. You work the great capstan to raise the heavy anchor, and you man the pumps for the daily, back-breaking chore of pumping out the bilge. The foul, stinking water that constantly seeps into the ship's hull. You are a human engine, and the ship is a hungry beast that always demands more work. Discipline is absolute and is enforced with casual brutality. The captain is a remote, godlike figure. The real power over your daily life is wielded by the boatswain and his mates. Any perceived laziness, any hesitation to obey an order, is met with a blow from a rope's end. For more serious offenses, there is the cat o' nine tails, a multi-tailed whip that can strip the flesh from a man's back. You have seen a man flogged for stealing an extra ration of water? The sight of his bloody, lacerated back is a powerful lesson in obedience. And then there is the food. It is a diet of relentless, soul-crushing monotony. The foundation of every meal is the ship's biscuit, or hardtack. It is a simple flour and water cracker, baked into a rock-hard square to remove all moisture and prevent mold. It is so hard you cannot bite it. You must break it with your fist or soak it in your daily ration of water or grog. It is almost always infested with weevils, small black insects that burrow into the biscuit. You learn to tap your biscuit on the table before you eat. To knock out the living weevils, you try not to think about the dead ones you are eating. The protein is salt beef or salt pork, meat that has been cured in barrels of brine for months or years. It is a strange, grayish color, tough as leather, and so salty it makes your mouth pucker and your thirst rage. To eat it, you must soak it for hours to draw out some of the salt. The ship's cook is a master of minimalism. His signature dish is salt meat and hardtack, and for variety, tomorrow he's making hardtack and salt meat. You're thinking of leaving a bad review on Yelp, but you're in the middle of the Atlantic. Your water is stored in wooden casks and quickly becomes foul, slimy, and stagnant. It is often green with algae. To make it drinkable, it is mixed with beer, or more often, with rum or brandy, to create grog. This daily ration of alcohol is one of the few pleasures of your life. A brief, warm respite from the misery, and a vital tool for the captain to keep the crew compliant. After weeks at sea, a new enemy appears, a scourge more feared than any storm. Scurvy. It begins with a profound lethargy, a feeling of weakness in your limbs. Then your gums begin to swell, becoming soft and spongy, and they bleed at the slightest touch. Your teeth loosen in their sockets. Old, long-healed scars mysteriously reopen. Caused by a lack of vitamin C, a concept utterly unknown to you. Scurvy was the great killer of the Age of Discovery, carrying off sailors by the thousands. You watch as your crewmates, once strong and able men, are reduced to weak, listless invalids, unable to work, waiting for a slow, painful death. The social world of the ship is a complex hierarchy. You know your place. Above you are the skilled craftsmen who are vital to the ship's survival, the carpenter. Who is the ship's doctor for wood? The cooper. Who maintains the precious barrels that hold your food and water? The master gunner. In charge of the ship's cannons? Above them are the officers, the pilot. A man of immense skill who navigates by the sun and the stars. The mates. And finally, the captain. Your motivation for being here is a subject that historians will later debate. Are you here because you were forced into service? Or because you dreamed of adventure and gold for you? The answer is simpler. You are here because you were poor. And this was your only option. The hope of a better life is a powerful lure. Even if it means enduring this floating hell, weeks turn into months. The world becomes an endless, featureless expanse of blue water and blue sky. The routine of work, eat, and sleep is broken only by the occasional sighting of another ship, or a school of dolphins playing in the bow wave. It is a life of profound boredom, punctuated by moments of terror. But all of this, the hard labor, the brutal discipline, the rancid food, the creeping sickness is the normal part of the voyage. This is the life you signed up for. It is a misery, but it is an ordered, predictable misery. You have not yet experienced the true horror that the sea can unleash. You do not yet know what happens when the routine is shattered. When the ship, your entire wooden world, is broken into pieces by the fury of the ocean. One evening, you are on the dusk watch. You notice the sky to the west has a strange, bruised, purplish color. The sea, which has been calm for days, begins to swell, the waves growing longer and higher. The air becomes heavy, still and unnaturally warm. The ship's cat, a creature more attuned to the moods of the ocean than any sailor, begins to howl, a low, mournful sound. The old, experienced sailors look at the sky, and you see a new kind of fear in their eyes. The predictable misery of your life is about to end. A far greater, more chaotic one is gathering on the horizon. The change comes with a subtlety that is far more terrifying than a sudden squall. The predictable rhythm of the ship, the steady roll, the creak of the timbers, the sharp snap of the sails begins to alter. The long, gentle swells of the open ocean become shorter, steeper, more agitated. The sky to the west, where the sun has just set, is not a peaceful tapestry of pink and orange, but a dark, bruised, and ugly purple that festers on the horizon. A strange, oppressive humidity descends, making the air thick and hard to breathe. The wind, which has been your constant companion and your engine for weeks, dies away completely. The great sails slat and bang uselessly against the masts. The ship wallows in the uneasy sea, and an unnatural, dead silence falls. The old, experienced sailors, the men with faces like cracked leather and eyes accustomed to reading the moods of the ocean, stop what they are doing. They look at the sky, they sniff the air, and you see them exchange quiet, worried glances. They know this stillness. It is not peace, it is the deep, indrawn breath of a monster before it roars. The captain's long-range weather forecast, based on the color of the sky and a pain in his knee, has been upgraded from a bit breezy to the apocalypse would like a word. The boatswain's whistle shrieks, a sharp, urgent sound that cuts through the silence. All hands, he bellows. Furl the topsails, secure the deck. The disciplined chaos you have been trained for erupts. You and the other sailors scramble into the rigging, your bare feet slapping against the wooden deck. You climb, your heart pounding with a new kind of fear. This is not the routine work of trimming the sails in a steady wind. This is a desperate race against an unseen enemy. The air is electric with a nervous energy. As you climb higher, the first gust of wind hits you, a hot, powerful breath that almost tears you from the ratlines. You crawl out onto the yardarm, 100 feet above the now heaving deck. The wood's slippery beneath you. You and your crewmates fight with the massive canvas of the topsail, a great, flogging beast that threatens to throw you into the churning sea below. You struggle to gather it, to tie it down with thick rope gaskets. The wind is a physical opponent now, a bully that shoves and pushes at you, screaming in your ears, down on the deck. Men are lashing down everything that is loose, the spare spars, the coils of rope, the wooden chests. The livestock in their pens are crying out, their animal senses telling them that something terrible is coming. The great iron cannons are secured with heavy ropes. The hatches leading below deck are covered with tarpaulins and battened down, sealing the lower decks in a stuffy, fearful darkness. And then the storm hits. It does not arrive gradually. It descends upon you like a physical assault. The wind goes from a powerful gale to a screaming, elemental fury in a matter of minutes. It is a sound unlike any you have ever heard. A continuous, high-pitched shriek that seems to tear at the very fabric of the world. It is a sound of pure, mindless violence. The sea, which was merely agitated before, is now a chaos of black, mountainous waves. They are not individual waves anymore, but a single, writhing, liquid landscape of jagged peaks and deep, dark valleys. Your ship, which seemed so large and indestructible in port, is now a tiny, insignificant toy at the mercy of this immense power. It is lifted up on the crest of a monstrous wave, hanging there for a sickening, eternal moment, surrounded by a panorama of watery hell. Then it plunges, sliding down the face of the wave into a deep trough. The walls of water on either side so high they block out the sky. Before you can even recover, the next wave, a great, crashing wall of cold, dark water, slams down onto the deck. Tons of seawater sweep across the ship. A powerful, irresistible force. You are knocked from your feet, slammed against the mast. You cling to a rope, your knuckles white, the water trying to tear you away, to pull you into the churning chaos of the ocean. You see another sailor, a boy you shared your grog with just last night, lose his grip. He is gone in an instant, a brief, desperate cry lost in the deafening roar of the wind. The ship itself begins to scream. The constant, familiar creaking of its timbers is now a chorus of agonizing groans and shrieks. The sound of the wooden structure being twisted and tormented to its absolute limit. You hear a sharp crack, like a rifle shot as a yardarm high above you splinters and snaps. A moment later, another. Deeper boom echoes from below your feet, the sound of a great beam shifting in the hull. The ship is making a number of new and exciting sounds. They are mostly the sounds of very large, important pieces of wood snapping in half. It's probably fine. The cry goes up from below deck. The pumps. Man, the pumps. The sheer force of the waves is driving water through every seam, every joint in the ship's hull. The ship is taking on water, and the level in the bilge is rising fast. You and a team of other men stumble to the pumps. Your body's already bruised and exhausted. You work the heavy wooden handles, up and down, in a frantic, desperate rhythm. Cold, stinking bilge water gushes out onto the deck and is immediately washed away by the next wave. But it's a losing battle. For every gallon you pump out, 10 more seem to force their way in. The ship is slowly, inexorably, filling up, hour after hour. You exist in this world of pure sensory overload. The roar of the wind, the crash of the waves, the groaning of the ship, the shouting of the officers, the sting of the salt spray in your eyes, the bone-deep cold of the water, the burning of your overstrained muscles. Fear is a constant, a metallic taste in your mouth. You see hardened sailors, men who have spent their entire lives at sea, weeping openly, their prayers and curses lost in the storm. Then comes the fatal blow. A wave of unimaginable size. A rogue mountain of water rises up out of the darkness. It seems to hang over the ship for a moment, and then it breaks upon you. The impact is catastrophic. There is a sound like the world being torn in two. A great splintering, grinding crunch that you feel through the very soles of your feet. The main mast, a tree trunk 100 feet tall, snaps at its base. It topples down in a slow, majestic, and horrifying arc, crashing onto the deck in a tangled cataclysm of wood, rope, and canvas, crushing everything and everyone in its path. The loss of the mast is a death sentence. The ship is now completely crippled. Without its engine, it lurches violently and begins to turn broadside to the waves. The most vulnerable position possible. It is now just a helpless, broken tub, waiting for the sea to deliver the final blow. The captain, his face a mask of grim resignation, knows it is over. The order is given to abandon ship. Though there is little hope of survival in the raging sea, you and the other survivors try to free the longboat. The ship's largest boat, hacking at the ropes that hold it down with axes. It is at this moment that you feel a new, even more violent shudder run through the entire vessel. A grinding, scraping, tearing sound from below. You have hit something. A reef. An uncharted line of rocks hidden beneath the waves. The storm has driven you onto the land you could not see. The ship's hull is ripped open. The sea, which has been trying to get in, now pours into the ship's guts in a roaring torrent. The ship begins to break apart beneath your very feet. The deck tilts at a crazy angle. You are sliding across the wet. Splintered wood. Men are screaming. The world is a chaos of splintering timbers, tangled rigging, and the overwhelming, terrifying roar of the sea. You grab onto a piece of the broken rail, your fingers numb, your body battered, and then the section of the deck you are on simply disintegrates, and you are thrown, along with the wreckage of your world, into the violent, churning, and impossibly cold embrace of the ocean. The world splinters. The horrifying, grinding sound of the ship's hull being torn open on the reef is the last sound of your old life. The deck, which has been your solid, predictable reality for months, lurches violently beneath you, no longer a floor but a collapsing angled wall. You lose your grip, and in the next instant, you are in the water. It is not a gentle immersion. It is a violent, shocking baptism in a world of pure, cold chaos. The ocean, which you have lived upon for so long, is now inside your mouth, your nose, your lungs. The salt water burns, and the cold is a physical blow, a shock so profound it seems to stop your heart. You are tumbling in a dark, roaring, liquid world, with no sense of up or down. Your lungs are on fire, screaming for air that isn't there. You are drowning, driven by a primal, animal instinct for survival. You kick and claw your way towards what you hope is the surface. Your head breaks through into the shrieking air. You take a desperate, ragged gasp, a mixture of air and salt spray that makes you choke and retch. For a moment, you can see, and what you see is a scene from a nightmare. Your ship is gone. It does not exist anymore. Where your great floating castle stood just moments ago, there is only a churning maelstrom of white water breaking over the dark. Jagged teeth of the reef, the water is a thick, deadly soup of splintered timbers, shattered barrels, and the tangled, snake-like coils of the ship's rigging. And in the water with you are your crewmates. You see a man's head bobbing nearby, his mouth open in a silent scream before a wave crashes over him and he disappears. You see another man clinging desperately to a large piece of the broken mast. You see bodies, limp and lifeless, tossed about in the waves like driftwood. The air is filled with the roar of the storm and the thin, desperate cries of dying men. You've just been violently thrown from your home into the middle of a hurricane. On the plus side, You no longer have to worry about the terrible food. On the negative side, you are now the food. A large wave picks you up and slams you against a floating piece of wreckage, the impact driving the last of the air from your lungs. Pain explodes in your side. You grab onto the splintered plank. Your fingers numb and clumsy with the cold, and you hold on with a strength you did not know you possessed. This piece of wood is now your entire world, your only anchor in this chaos. You are at the complete mercy of the sea. You are lifted to the dizzying crest of a great wave, offered a terrifying, panoramic view of the destruction, and then plunged into a deep, dark trough. The water is a battlefield of debris, a heavy barrel, tossed by a wave. Narrowly misses your head. You're forced to push away jagged planks that threaten to impale you. You see a man become entangled in a mess of ropes from a fallen mast and get dragged under. His struggles quickly swallowed by the churning water. Most of the sailors you served with, you realize, are already dead. It is a common historical fact, though a surprising one, that the vast majority of common seamen in the Age of Discovery could not swim. It was a skill considered useless, even unlucky. Many believed that knowing how to swim would only prolong the agony of drowning in a shipwreck. You, having grown up in a fishing village, can swim just enough to keep your head above water, but in this violent sea, that skill alone is almost useless. Your survival so far has been a matter of pure, dumb luck, the luck of not being crushed, of not being dragged under, of finding this one piece of wood to cling to as you hold on. A new and more primal terror begins to creep into your mind. You are not alone in the water. The commotion of the wreck, the blood from the dead and injured, has sent out a signal into the depths. You see it first as a dark, triangular shape cutting through the surface of a wave. A fin, then another. Sharks. They have been drawn to the disaster. You see a man, not 20 yards from you, screaming as he is pulled under. The water around him turning a brief, dark cloud of red. A new, frantic energy fills you. You must get out of the water. And then you see it. A miracle in the midst of the apocalypse. The ship's longboat. Somehow, in the final, chaotic moments, a few men, led by one of the ship's mates, had managed to free it. It has survived, though it is low in the water, half swamped, and being tossed about like a cork. There are a handful of men in it, desperately bailing with their hands and hats. It is your only hope. It looks like the most beautiful 5-star luxury hotel you have ever seen. The boat is 50 yards away, a seemingly impossible distance in this sea, but the sight of the sharks gives you a new, terrible motivation. You let go of your plank and you begin to swim. A desperate, clumsy dog paddle. You are weighed down by your wet wool clothes. Every stroke is an agony, your bruised ribs screaming in protest. A wave crashes over you, pushing you under, and you swallow more stinging salt water. You fight your way back to the surface, spitting and coughing, your eyes fixed on the boat. Historians and survival experts will later debate the psychology of a moment like this. What is it that separates the men who fight for their lives from those who simply give up and slip beneath the waves? Is it training? Is it innate character? Or is it the sudden appearance of a clear, attainable goal? A survivor's mission that focuses the mind and blocks out the terror for you. It is the boat. The boat is survival. It is the only thought in your mind. You swim. You are no longer thinking, just moving. Your limbs acting on a primal instinct. The chaos of the wreck seems to fade. Your world narrowing to the few feet of churning water in front of you and the dark. Beautiful shape of that boat. You are almost there. 10 yards? 5. You can see the faces of the men inside, their expressions grim and exhausted. You cry out, your voice a raw croak. "Help me," one of the men, the second mate, sees you. He shouts to the others. You reach the side of the boat, your fingers grabbing desperately at the gunwale. You have no strength left to pull yourself up. Two pairs of strong hands grab your arms and haul you like a sack of wet grain. Over the side, you collapse into the bottom of the boat, which is already slick with several inches of sloshing seawater. You lie there, shivering uncontrollably. Your body a symphony of pain, your lungs heaving, but you are out of the water. You are alive. You have survived the violent baptism of the ocean. Slowly, you push yourself up. You look around at your fellow survivors. There are perhaps a dozen of you, crammed into a boat designed to hold twice that many in calm seas. You recognize the second mate, a few able seamen, the ship's cooper. All are in a similar state of shock and exhaustion. The boat itself is damaged, with a long crack in one of its planks, and it is taking on water. The storm still rages around you, but its fury seems more distant now, less personal. Your immediate world is this small, fragile, overcrowded vessel. The wreckage of your ship and the bodies of your crewmates are already being scattered and swallowed by the storm. You're a tiny, insignificant speck of life, adrift in a universe of hostile water. You look at the faces of the other men in the boat, and you see your own exhaustion and terror reflected back at you. You have survived the wreck. But as you lie in the bottom of this leaking, damaged boat, with no food, no fresh water, no land in sight, you have the dawning, horrifying realization that your ordeal is not over. It has simply entered a new, and perhaps even more terrible, stage. You have survived the wreck. You are in the longboat for a few brief, precious moments. This feels like a victory. You are out of the churning, debris-filled water. You are not shark food. You are surrounded by a dozen other breathing, living men. But as the storm slowly, grudgingly releases its grip and the gray light of a new day dawns, the true nature of your situation reveals itself. The cruel comfort of the longboat is simply a new, slower and more intimate kind of hell. The sun rises on a world of endless, heaving water. The apocalyptic fury of the storm has passed, leaving behind a vast slate-gray sea, rolling with swells as high as hills. Of your ship, your entire world for the past few months. There is no sign, no wreckage, no other survivors. Nothing. The ocean has swallowed it whole, as if it never existed. You are utterly, terrifyingly alone. The second mate, a hard, pragmatic man named Nunez, takes charge. His authority is the only remnant of the ship's hierarchy, the only thread of order in this chaos. His first command is to take stock. You and the others search the boat. Your movements slow and clumsy, your body's numb with cold and shock. The inventory is a quick and brutal accounting of your hopelessness. There is one small wooden cask, a breaker, containing fresh water. It is perhaps a quarter full. You look at the dozen starving, dehydrated men crammed into the boat, and you know this pitiful amount will not last long. There is a single canvas bag containing ship's biscuit. The bag is soaked through with seawater, and the biscuits inside have dissolved into a single, gray, unappetizing mush. A salty porridge of despair. For tools, you have 3 mismatched oars, a bucket that was being used for bailing, and the knives on a few of the men's belts. You have no sail, no mast, no compass, no way of knowing where you are or which way to go. You have successfully escaped the immediate danger of the shipwreck and have been upgraded to the long-term danger of slowly dying from thirst in a small, leaky boat. It's a lateral move. At best, Nunez immediately institutes the law of the castaway. He takes control of the water cask and the biscuit mush. They are the only currency that matters now, and he guards them with his life. "We will have water twice a day," he announces, his voice raw and cracked. "And food once, that's all. Anyone who tries to take more will be put over the side. That is the law." No one argues. Your new life begins. It is a life stripped down to its most elemental. Miserable components. The first and most constant task is bailing. The longboat was damaged in the wreck, and a steady trickle of water seeps in through a crack in one of the planks. 2 men are assigned to bailing at all times, working in shifts. They use the bucket. They use their hats. They use their cupped hands. It is a relentless, Sisyphean task. The moment they slow down, the water level begins to rise. A constant, liquid reminder of how close you are to oblivion. Twice a day, Nunez performs the agonizing ritual of the water ration. He uses a small tin cup, carefully doling out a single mouthful of water to each man. You watch, your eyes fixed on the cup, your throat a desert of raw. Scraped out thirst, the single. Lukewarm swallow is a moment of pure, exquisite agony. It is just enough to remind your body what it is missing, to ignite the fires of your thirst into a raging inferno before it is gone. Once a day, you're given your food ration. Nunez scoops a small portion of the soggy biscuit paste into your cup. Dirty hand. It tastes of salt and mold and desperation. You lick your hand clean, savoring every last gritty morsel. It does nothing to quell the gnawing hunger in your stomach, but it is something. The new meal plan is very exclusive. A spoonful of wet biscuit mush and a sip of water per day. It's less of a diet and more of a slow-motion dehydration schedule. The elements, which were your violent enemies during the storm, are now your slow, methodical torturers during the day. The tropical sun is merciless. There is no shelter in the open boat. It beats down on your head, your neck, your shoulders, your skin. Already raw from the salt water, begins to blister and peel. The heat bakes the moisture from your body, leaving your lips cracked and your tongue swollen and thick. You begin to dream of shade, to fantasize about the simple pleasure of sitting under a tree at night. The opposite torment arrives. The temperature drops, and the damp air becomes chillingly cold. Your wet clothes, which never dry, cling to your skin, sucking the warmth from your body. You huddle together in the bottom of the boat, a miserable pile of shivering humanity, your teeth chattering uncontrollably. You press against the bodies of your crewmates not for comfort, but for a sliver of shared body heat. The days and nights blur into one another, an undifferentiated cycle of misery. The ocean is a vast, empty wilderness. Each morning, you scan the horizon, a desperate, irrational hope surging in your chest. You pray for the sight of a sail, a smudge of smoke, anything to prove you're not the last living creatures on the planet. And each evening, the setting sun extinguishes that hope, leaving you to face another long, cold night of despair. Your body begins to break down. The thirst is the worst part. It is a physical pain, a constant, rasping feeling in your throat. Your mind becomes obsessed with it. You see mirages, shimmering lakes on the surface of the ocean, phantom rain clouds that never arrive. Your mind knows they are not real, but your heart leaps at them every time. The hunger evolves from a sharp pain into a dull, listless ache. You have no energy. Your movements are slow and deliberate. Your body, deprived of fuel, begins to consume itself. The fat melts away first, then the muscle. You look at the other men in the boat, and you see the same transformation. Their faces become gaunt, their eyes sunken and hollow in their skulls. You are becoming skeletons together. Your only hope is rain. One afternoon, you see dark clouds gathering on the horizon. It is a small squall. As it approaches, a frantic energy fills the boat. Nunez orders the men to prepare if you have a small piece of canvas. It is held up to catch the water. You have nothing. You simply lie back, your mouth open to the sky like a baby bird. The rain comes, and it is the most beautiful thing you have ever experienced. It is fresh. It is clean. It is life. You drink greedily, the cool water a balm to your raw throat. It is not much, but it is enough to keep you alive for another few days. Psychologists and survival experts will one day debate the limits of human endurance. The rule of threes: 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. But the accounts of castaways like you will challenge these simple rules. You are living proof that the human body can cling to life with a terrifying, desperate tenacity, long after it should have surrendered. The days wear on. How long have you been adrift? A week, 2. You have lost all track of time. Men begin to lose their minds. A young sailor begins to speak to his mother, who he imagines is sitting beside him in the boat. Another man, in a fit of madness, tries to drink the salt water from the ocean and has to be restrained by the others, who know that to do so is a certain and agonizing death. You are all dying. Slowly. Painfully. Inexorably. The water ration is now just a few drops to moisten your cracked lips. The biscuit mush is long gone. There is nothing left. You lie in the bottom of the boat, under the blazing sun, your tongue a swollen, useless piece of leather in your mouth. And you wait for the end. And then, one evening, Nunez, the mate, gathers the last of his strength. He speaks, his voice a dry, rasping whisper. Men. He says, the water is gone. We will not survive another day. There is one last chance. A custom of the sea. You all know what he means. You have all heard the grim stories. The whispers in the forecastle of your old ship. You look around at the other men. At your comrades in suffering. You are no longer looking at friends. You are looking at a potential source of salvation. A source of liquid. A source of meat. The final taboo is about to be broken. The cruel comfort of the longboat has run its course. And a far more terrible law is about to be enacted. The water is gone. The last drop was dispensed yesterday. A single, shared tear of moisture on the cracked lips of a dozen dying men. The small wooden cask, which had been the focal point of your existence, the very center of your hope, now lies empty and useless in the bottom of the boat. With its emptiness, the last vestige of the old world's order has vanished. The mate, Nunez, is no longer the master of the water supply. He is just another man with a swollen tongue and hollow, desperate eyes. A new, more terrible authority is about to take command, the law of pure, unadulterated necessity. The thirst is no longer a pain. It is your entire reality. Your mouth is a dry, sticky cavern. Your throat feels as if it is lined with sand. Every breath is a rasping effort. You try to summon enough saliva to wet your lips, but there is none. You lie in the bottom of the boat, under the relentless, white-hot sun, and you begin to understand that there are fates far worse than a quick drowning in a storm. One of the younger sailors, a boy from Cadiz, begins to lose his mind. He starts to laugh. A dry, rattling sound. He points at the endless, shimmering expanse of blue around you. Water, he croaks. So much water. We are fools before anyone can stop him. He leans over the side of the boat, scoops up the brilliant, clear seawater in his cupped hands, and drinks it down greedily. You watch him. A grim and silent audience. You all know the sailor's lore. You know that to drink the sea is to drink a fatal poison. For a few minutes, the boy seems better, a look of ecstatic relief on his face. Then, the agony begins. His body is racked with violent cramps. He begins to vomit, losing what little moisture he had left in his body. He screams, his mind lost in a fiery delirium, until finally, he falls into a series of violent convulsions and then lies still. His ordeal is over. His death is a stark and brutal lesson for the rest of you. There is no escape there. The sun beats down. Another day passes in a haze of lethargy and pain. Your world has shrunk to the small, floating coffin, surrounded by the mocking, undrinkable sea. The camaraderie you once shared, the bond of the shipwreck, has evaporated under the heat. Now, you look at the other men, and they look at you, and the glances are furtive, suspicious. You are no longer comrades in suffering. You are competitors for the last few drops of life left in this boat. You hoard your own body's moisture, turning your face away to cough, trying not to exhale too much. The boat has a new set of bylaws. They're pretty simple. They mostly revolve around not looking at your crewmates like they're a potential beverage. The next desperate measure is tried. One of the men, with a look of profound self-loathing, relieves himself into his cupped hands and drinks. Others, seeing him, follow suit. You are so consumed by thirst that you do the same. The liquid is warm, acrid, and intensely salty. It is the most disgusting thing you have ever tasted. It offers a moment's moisture to your parched mouth. But you know instinctively that it is a false hope. You are just drinking your own body's waste. A closed loop of poison that will only hasten the end. That evening, as the sun sets, turning the sky into a beautiful, cruel spectacle of orange and purple, Nunez speaks. His voice is a barely audible whisper, his words cracking. "Men," he says, forcing you all to look at him. "We have tried the sea. We have tried ourselves. There is nothing, if we do nothing. We will all be dead by tomorrow night." He pauses, letting the weight of his words settle in the silent boat. There is another way. The custom of the sea. He has said it. He has given voice to the terrible thought that has been lurking, unspoken, in the back of every man's mind. The final taboo. The desperate law of the castaway. You will kill one, so that the others might live. A man begins to weep, a dry, racking sob that produces no tears. Another, a deeply religious sailor from Galicia, crosses himself and begins to whisper a prayer. But no one argues with Nunez. No one has the strength. And deep down, in the most primal, animal part of your brain, you all know he is right. It is a question of brutal arithmetic. Is it better for 12 men to die or for one man to die so that 11 might have a chance to live a few more days? A chance to see a sail. A chance to be saved. The discussion that follows is a grim parody of a legal debate. It is a conversation held by skeletons. Who should it be? Should it be the weakest? The man clearly closest to death, anyway. That seems logical, but also monstrously unfair. Should it be Nunez as the leader? Sacrificing himself, he refuses, arguing he is the only one with the knowledge to navigate should you ever find a sail. Should it be a volunteer? No one speaks. This is a choice that has been made by desperate men like you for centuries. It is a choice that will one day be debated in the high courts of England, where judges will try to weigh the law of man against the law of necessity. Is it murder if the only alternative is the certain death of everyone legal scholars and ethicists will argue about it for centuries? But you do not have the luxury of academic debate. You are living the question. Finally, you all agree on the only method that seems fair, the only way to remove the burden of choice, the guilt of selection. You will hold a lottery. You will let God, or fate, or blind chance decide who is to be the savior and who is to be the sacrament. The preparation for the lottery is a slow, solemn ritual. The cooper, the man who once cared for the ship's barrels, takes his knife and, with a shaking hand, cuts a dozen small splinters of wood from one of the boat's thwarts. He makes them all of different lengths. He gathers them in his hand like a bundle of straws. Concealing their lengths, the mood in the boat is one of profound, terrifying gravity. The sun has set, and the stars have come out, impossibly bright and cold in the clear night sky. They look down on your small boat, a tiny stage for this terrible human drama, with a serene and absolute indifference. The cooper holds out the bundle of splinters. "The shortest piece," he begins, but he cannot finish the sentence. He doesn't have to. You all know, the man who draws the shortest splinter will be the one. He will give his life so that the others may drink his blood to quench their terrible thirst, and eat his flesh to quell their gnawing hunger. He will go around the boat. Man by man, each of you will pull a splinter. The air is thick with a silence that is heavier than any storm. You look at the faces of your comrades in the dim starlight. You see the fear. You see the grim resignation. You see the flicker of a terrible selfish hope in every man's eyes. Let it not be me. The cooper turns to the man sitting next to him. Draw, he whispers. The man reaches out a trembling hand. The desperate laws of the sea are now in force. The lottery is about to begin. The lottery begins. There is no turning back. The laws of God and the kingdoms of men have no jurisdiction here. The only law is the custom of the sea. A brutal covenant born of thirst and despair. The cooper, his hand trembling so much that the wooden splinters rattle, holds the small bundle out to the man nearest him. The silence in the boat is absolute. A heavy, suffocating blanket. It is deeper than the silence of a calm sea. It is the silence of a dozen souls holding their breath, waiting for a judgment from a merciless God. The only sound is the gentle lapping of the waves against the hull and the dry, rasping sound of your own breathing. The first man draws. He pulls a splinter from the cooper's fist. He looks at it. It is long. A tiny, almost imperceptible sigh of relief escapes his lips. He has been spared. For now, he passes the test of fate. The cooper moves to the next man. The process is repeated, with each draw of a long splinter. The tension in the small boat ratchets up, becoming an almost unbearable physical pressure. The odds grow shorter. The number of splinters remaining in the cooper's hand shrinks. You watch, your eyes darting from the bundle of splinters to the faces of your crewmates. Now your fellow condemned. You see the twitching muscles in their jaws, the distant, terrified look in their eyes. Then, the cooper stands before you. His hand is shaking. You can see the pale splinters of wood sticking out from between his dirty, calloused fingers. This is your moment. Your entire life, your childhood in a dusty village, your months of toil on the ship, your terrifying survival of the wreck, it has all led to this single, simple choice. You say a silent, frantic prayer to a God you are no longer sure is listening. You reach out your hand, your own fingers so weak they feel like a stranger's, and you pull. You draw the splinter into the light. It is long, longer than your thumb. A wave of relief so powerful and so profound washes over you that you feel dizzy, almost faint. It is a selfish, animal relief, and you are immediately ashamed of it. But it is there. It is not you. Today is not your day to die. The lottery continues. There are only 3 men left. The boy from Cadiz, a young sailor named Pedro whose face is still smooth, untouched by a razor, the old, grizzled cooper himself, and Nunez, the mate. The cooper holds the last 3 splinters out to Pedro. The boy's hand is shaking violently, or he can barely force his fingers to obey. He closes his eyes and pulls. He opens them, and he looks at the splinter in his hand. It is a tiny shard of wood, barely an inch long. It is the shortest piece. A sound escapes the boy's lips, a thin, high-pitched whimper, like a small animal caught in a trap. He looks at the splinter, then at the faces of the men around him, his eyes wide with a desperate, uncomprehending terror. "No," he whispers. "No, please, we can wait. One more day. A ship might come. Please." No one speaks. No one meets his eyes. You all look down at the bottom of the boat, at your own hands. Anywhere but at the boy whose death is now required to sustain your lives? He has lost the lottery. He is now the offering. He is your salvation. Nunez, the mate, shuffles forward, his movements stiff and slow. He has taken the grim responsibility upon himself. He has his sailor's knife in his hand. Say your prayers, boy, Nunez says, his voice a dry, broken whisper. God have mercy on your soul, and on ours. Pedro begins to sob, his body shaking. He recites a fractured Hail Mary, his words jumbled with pleas for his mother. You cannot watch. You turn your head away, facing out towards the empty, indifferent sea. You press your hands over your ears, but you cannot block out the sound. You hear a brief, desperate struggle. You hear a choked, gurgling cry. And then, a profound, terrible silence. The deed is done. You have crossed the line. You are no longer just shipwrecked sailors. You are murderers. You are cannibals. You are monsters. Sitting in a small boat in the middle of a beautiful, sunlit ocean, what follows is a grim, solemn, and silent ritual. There is no joy, no relief, only a sense of deep, soul-crushing horror at what you have become. Nunez, his face a stony, unreadable mask, performs the terrible butchery with a practiced efficiency. He is a sailor. He knows how to cut up a carcass. The boy's blood is collected in the tin cup that was once used for the water ration. It is the most precious resource. It is life. Nunez passes the cup to the first man. The man takes it, his hands shaking, and drinks. He closes his eyes as he swallows, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. The cup is passed to you. It is warm. It is thick and salty. You raise it to your lips, the coppery smell filling your nostrils, every part of your being, your soul, your memory of civilization, screams in protest, but the thirst, the raging, agonizing thirst that has ruled you for days, is a more powerful master. You drink. The liquid quenches the fire in your throat. It is a moment of pure, physical salvation, and it is the most profane act of your life. The boy's flesh is cut into thin strips and laid out on the thwarts of the boat to dry in the hot sun. To be rationed out over the coming days? You have committed the ultimate taboo, and now you must live with the consequences. Nourished by the body of your friend, psychologists in the future will study the accounts of survivors like you. They will debate the long-term trauma of this survival cannibalism. They will ask how a man reconciles the act of killing a comrade with his own survival. Does the fairness of the lottery provide any comfort? Does it absolve you of your guilt? You do not know the answers. You only know the cold. Heavy weight that has settled in the pit of your stomach. A weight that has nothing to do with hunger. The dynamic in the boat is forever changed. The quiet suspicion of before has been replaced by a new, shared monstrosity. You do not speak to each other. You do not look at each other. To look into another man's eyes is to see your own sin reflected back at you. You are a secret society of ghouls, bound together by a terrible, unspoken pact. You are alive, but your souls are dead. A day passes, then another. You chew on the strips of dried flesh. A strange, tough jerky that keeps you alive but fills you with a deep, chilling cold. Your thirst is gone, but your humanity feels like it has gone with it. You are alive, but you are no longer sure that you deserve to be. On the third day after the lottery, you are lying in the bottom of the boat, staring blankly at the endless blue of the sky, when one of the other sailors, his voice a hoarse, disbelieving crackle, points a trembling finger towards the horizon. Land, he whispers. You struggle to sit up. You follow his gaze, and you see it. It is not a mirage. It is a thin, dark line on the horizon, a smudge of green. Land. Salvation. The rescue you have been praying for. The deliverance you have just paid for with the life of a young boy. It has appeared, and its appearance feels less like a miracle from a merciful God, and more like the final, cruel punchline to a joke of cosmic proportions. The sight of land on the horizon is a match strike in the absolute darkness of your despair. It galvanizes the boat of half-dead men into a semblance of a living crew. The apathy that has gripped you for days is burned away by a sudden, frantic surge of desperate hope. The mate, Nunez, his voice a hoarse croak, begins to issue orders. "The oars," he whispers. "Get the oars in the water." It is a monumental effort. You and the other men who still have a sliver of strength fumble with the 3 heavy oars. Your hands are weak, your muscles atrophied. The wood feels impossibly heavy, but you begin to row. Your movements are clumsy, unsynchronized, a pathetic imitation of the powerful. Rhythmic strokes of a healthy crew. Each pull is an agony, your body screaming in protest, your mind fueled by nothing but the vision of that thin, green line on the horizon. The sun beats down on you, but you no longer feel it. Your entire being is focused on the simple. Brutal mechanics of the task: dip the oar, pull, lift, repeat. The guilt and the horror of what you have done in this boat. The memory of the lottery and the terrible sacrifice of the boy Pedro is momentarily suppressed by the overwhelming, primal need to reach that shore. Is it salvation? Is it a chance at redemption? Or is it simply the next stage of your punishment? You don't know. You only know that you must get there. Hours pass. The green line on the horizon grows slowly, painfully, larger. It resolves itself from a smudge into the distinct shapes of trees, of hills, of a white sandy beach. It is a real place. It is a paradise. From the boat, it looks like a perfect dream of safety and abundance. As you draw closer, you see that the paradise is ringed with a formidable guardian. A great coral reef lies just offshore, the sea breaking over it in a line of white, churning foam. To reach the calm lagoon and the beach beyond, you must navigate a narrow, treacherous channel through the sharp, ship-breaking coral. Nunez, now at the tiller. His eyes narrowed with a lifetime of reading the water. "Guides you," he shouts commands, his voice cracking. And you and the other rowers obey, your hearts in your throats. The thought of surviving weeks adrift only to be wrecked again, yards from the shore, is a cruelty too great to comprehend. The boat scrapes against the coral once, a horrifying, grating sound. But you make it through. You are in the calm water of the lagoon. You row the last few hundred feet with the last of your strength. And then, the bottom of the boat grinds onto the soft, white sand of the beach. The feeling of solid, unmoving ground beneath your feet is so strange, so overwhelming, that your legs buckle and you collapse onto the sand. You press your face into it. It is real. It is warm from the sun. You lie there, weeping with a relief so profound it feels like a physical pain. You have made it. You are on land. But the body's needs are tyrants that cannot be ignored for long. The first and greatest of these is thirst. After the initial emotional collapse, a frantic energy seizes the group. Water. You must find fresh water. You and the other men stumble up the beach, away from the mocking salt sea, and into the shade of the first line of palm trees. You are a ragged, skeletal crew, your skin burned and blistered by the sun, your clothes in tatters. You enter the jungle, and it is not a gentle, welcoming forest. It is a dense, humid, and alien world. The air is thick and alive with the buzz and chatter of unseen insects and birds. Great, broad-leafed plants you have never seen before form a tangled undergrowth. You push your way through it, your progress slow, your eyes scanning desperately, and then you hear it, the most beautiful sound in the world, the sound of trickling water. You follow the sound, crashing through the undergrowth until you find it, a small, clear stream, running from the hills down to the sea. You fall to your knees and plunge your face into the cool, fresh water. You drink, and drink, and drink. Long past the point of quenching your thirst, it is a moment of pure animal bliss, a feeling so intensely pleasurable it borders on pain. It is the feeling of life itself pouring back into your dying body. after the thirst is slaked, the hunger reasserts itself with a vengeance. You begin to look at this new world not as a landscape, but as a pantry you see strange. Brightly colored fruits hanging from the trees, they are tempting, beautiful, but you are wary. One of the sailors, against Nunez's advice, greedily eats a handful of shiny red berries. An hour later, he is writhing on the ground, his stomach convulsing in painful cramps. A grim lesson for the rest of you. The island is full of exciting new fruits you've never seen before. You're playing a fun game called Edible or Agonizing Death. The stakes are high, but the potential rewards are delicious. You find a safer source of food. Coconuts. They litter the ground beneath the tall palm trees. You have heard of this strange fruit from other sailors, but opening one is a challenge. You smash it against a rock again and again until the tough, fibrous husk finally cracks. Inside, the cool, sweet coconut water is another kind of miracle. The white meat is rich and oily, and you scrape it out with a seashell. Devouring every last piece, you feel strength, real strength, returning to your limbs. Later, exploring the rock pools on the beach, you find shellfish clinging to the rocks and small crabs scuttling in the shallows. You gather them up. That night, you build a fire. Another miracle, using a piece of flint from the beach and the dry husk of a coconut as tinder. You huddle around its warmth. A small band of ghosts on a vast, dark beach. And you roast the crabs and shellfish. The taste of the cooked meat is sublime. It is the first real meal you have had in what feels like a lifetime. But a terrible, final irony is waiting for you. One of the men, the ship's cooper, who had been one of the strongest among you, gorges himself on the rich food. His body, accustomed to starvation, cannot handle the sudden influx of rich fats and proteins. He becomes violently ill. His system, in a cruel paradox that modern medicine will call refeeding syndrome, shuts down from the shock of being saved. He dies on the beach that night, surrounded by the very abundance that should have saved him. You have survived the wreck. You have survived the thirst. You have survived the lottery, only to learn that salvation itself can be a poison. You and the remaining survivors set up a crude camp on the beach. You build a lean-to shelter from driftwood and palm fronds. You have found water. You have found a source of food. The immediate, life-threatening crisis is over. You have, by all accounts, been saved. But as the days turn into a week, a new, slower, and more insidious dread begins to creep in. You scan the horizon every day, but the horizon is always empty. You are on an island, but where are you? Are you in the Indies off the coast of Africa? Are you near the shipping lanes, or are you thousands of miles from any hope of rescue you do not know? You have escaped the prison of the longboat, but as you look out at the vast, empty blue of the ocean on one side, and the dark, deep, and unknown green of the jungle on the other, you realize you have only traded it for a much larger, and perhaps far more dangerous. 1. The island has given you life, but it has also given you a new kind of despair. The despair of the castaway wasnies, the despair of the long, slow wait for a rescue that may never come, the ecstasy of your landfall, the divine pleasure of fresh water, the rich taste of roasted crab. These things are bright, beautiful memories, but they are memories. The reality of your new life sets in with the rising of the second sun. You have survived the sea, but now you must survive the land, and you come to learn that this lush, green paradise is a far more subtle and devious enemy than the raging ocean ever was. Your small band of survivors, now numbering less than a dozen, attempts to create order out of chaos. Nunez, the mate, his authority derived from the world that now lies at the bottom of the sea, tries to instill the discipline of a ship's crew. A new routine is established, a daily battle fought on 3 fronts the fire. The water and the food. The fire is your voice. It is your only hope of being seen by a passing ship. A smudge of smoke by day. A flickering orange star by night. It must never go out. You and the others are organized into watches, just like on the ship. Your duty is to tend the fire on the beach, to feed it a constant diet of driftwood. And when the driftwood runs low, you must venture into the jungle's edge to gather fallen branches. The fire is your beacon of hope, a fragile prayer sent up to an empty sky. It's also a convenient way for any local predators to find out where the slow, weak, two-legged food source is sleeping. The stream you found is your lifeline, but your initial, joyous relief is now tinged with a deep anxiety. You follow it inland for a few miles and discover, to your horror, that it originates not from a deep spring in the mountains, but from a marshy, low-lying swamp. It is a seasonal stream, fed by the rains as the dry season progresses. You notice the flow of water diminishing day by day, from a run to a trickle. The fear of thirst, which you thought you had escaped, returns. The search for a more permanent source of water, a hidden spring or a rock basin, becomes a desperate, daily obsession. And then there is the food. The coconuts and the shellfish on the beach are a blessing, but they are not enough. You must venture deeper into the island's green heart, and it is here that you discover the island's great deception. The jungle is a fortress of inedible beauty. You are surrounded by plants of 1,000 different kinds, with broad, waxy leaves, strange, vibrant flowers, and tempting, jewel-like fruits. But your European knowledge is useless here. You are an ignorant child in a garden where every other plant might be a poison. You learn through a brutal process of trial and error. You watch what the monkeys and the birds eat, but that is no guarantee of safety. One of the men, desperate for something other than coconut, tries a bright, glossy-looking root. He boils it, and it tastes starchy and satisfying. For a few hours, he is triumphant. Then the sickness begins. A paralysis creeps up his legs, and a great fire burns in his belly. He lives, but he is weakened for weeks. A living warning to the rest of you. You're on an all-natural, forage diet. You've discovered many new and interesting plants so far. 3 of them cause violent hallucinations, and 1 of them just makes you wish you were dead. The learning curve is steep. The island's fauna is no more welcoming. At night, the jungle comes alive with sounds that chill your blood. You hear the cough of a jaguar, the hiss of something large in the undergrowth. You learn to walk with extreme caution. Every step a potential encounter with a venomous snake or a nest of giant, stinging ants. The insects are a constant torment. Mosquitoes descend in clouds at dusk, leaving your skin covered in itchy, weeping welts. Some of the men fall ill with fevers that come and go, their bodies racked with chills. A sickness carried on the wings of these tiny, merciless predators. You have landed in a tropical paradise where everything is either poisonous, venomous, or wants to eat you. The scenery is lovely, though, as the weeks crawl by with no sign of a rescue. The psychological toll begins to mount. The initial unity of the survivors begins to fracture. The shared trauma that bound you together gives way to the grating friction of desperate men trapped in a hopeless situation. Arguments break out over the smallest things. A man is accused of taking more than his share of the coconut meat. Another is accused of not gathering enough firewood for the signal fire. Nunez tries to mediate, but his authority is fading. He is a master of the sea. But here, on land, he is as lost as the rest of you. One of the older sailors, a man named Thomas, succumbs to a particularly cruel and obscure affliction. It is not a sickness of the body, but of the spirit. You watch as he simply gives up. He stops eating, he stops drinking. He sits on the beach, staring blankly out at the empty horizon, refusing to speak or move. You try to force water between his lips, but he lets it dribble out. His body is still alive, but his soul has already departed. within a week. He is dead. You have witnessed the power of pure despair, a phenomenon future doctors will call psychogenic death. The terrifying reality that a man can, through the loss of all hope, simply will himself to die. Historians and psychologists will one day debate the key factors in long-term survival. Is it practical skill, or is it mental fortitude? The story of your small, dwindling band is a testament to the latter. The true battle is not against the island. It is against the hopelessness in your own mind. You try to maintain a routine. You keep the fire lit. You search for food. You watch the sea. But the days are identical. A monotonous cycle of sun, sweat, and fear. The guilt of what happened in the longboat, the memory of the lottery, begins to resurface in the long, quiet hours. You find yourself avoiding the eyes of the other men, wondering if they, like you, are haunted by the face of the boy Pedro. Did you kill him only to find a slower, greener death on this forgotten shore? The cosmic joke of your salvation feels more bitter with every passing. Empty day, you have been on the island for what feels like a lifetime. It may have been 2 months, or 3. The group is smaller now. The Cooper is dead from the refeeding. Thomas is dead from despair. Another man has died from a snakebite. There are only 8 of you left. You have become gaunt, wild-looking creatures, your hair long and matted, your skin burned dark by the sun. You begin to accept your fate. The hope of rescue has faded from a burning fire to a few dying embers. You will likely die here, on this beautiful, terrible island, and your story will die with you. Your bones will be scattered by jungle animals, and no one in your home village will ever know what became of you. One afternoon, to escape the oppressive misery of the camp, you walk further down the beach than you have ever gone before, around a rocky headland. The beach on the other side is pristine, a stretch of white sand untouched by your presence. And then you see it. Your heart stops. There, in the damp sand near the water's edge, is a footprint. It is a clear, unmistakable print of a single, bare human foot. And it is not yours. It does not belong to any of the other survivors. You are not alone. And the terror that fills you at this realization is colder and more profound than anything you have ever felt before. The footprint in the sand is a symbol of a terrifying, world-altering truth. For weeks, your universe has been defined by its emptiness, by the vast, lonely stage of the island and the sea. Your struggle has been against nature, against hunger, against despair. But this simple depression in the sand changes everything. It means the greatest and most unpredictable danger of all is here other people. You scramble back to the camp, your heart hammering, your mind a whirlwind of fear and a strange, wild hope. You burst into the crude shelter, gasping out the news to Nunez and the other 6 survivors. A footprint, not ours. The reaction is a microcosm of your entire ordeal. A few men are gripped by immediate terror. Their minds, fed by the lurid tales told by sailors in every port, conjure up images of savage cannibals, of monstrous rituals and painful death. Others are seized by a desperate, almost manic optimism. People mean a village, food, perhaps a boat, away off this cursed island. They are saviors, a miracle sent by God. For you, the feeling is a sickening mixture of both. They are an unknown quantity, and in your world, the unknown has almost always been a herald of new and more inventive forms of suffering. The debate over what to do, whether to hide, to try and make contact, or to prepare for a fight is rendered moot before it can even properly begin. The decision is made for you. As you are speaking in hushed, frantic tones, a shadow falls over the entrance to your shelter. You look up. They have found you. They emerge from the jungle's edge not with a roar, but with a silent, unnerving grace. There are perhaps 20 of them. They are men, but a kind of man you have never seen before. Their skin is the color of rich, brown earth. Their black hair is long and adorned with feathers. Their bodies are covered in intricate painted designs or dark, tattooed lines that swirl across their chests and arms. They are lean and muscular, moving with a fluid confidence that speaks of a life in perfect harmony with this environment that has been trying so hard to kill you. They carry long spears tipped with fire-hardened wood or sharpened stone, and powerful-looking bows. They are the true masters of this island, and you are the strange, pale, skeletal, and ragged intruders who have washed up on their shore. A moment of absolute, frozen silence hangs in the air. You and your fellow survivors stand, paralyzed by your signal fire. They stand at the tree line, watching you. Their faces are unreadable. There is no obvious aggression, but there is no welcome either. There is only a deep, intense curiosity, the way a man might study a strange, new, and potentially dangerous animal. You're trying to communicate using the international language of pointing and making "I'm hungry" faces. They're responding with their own complex gestures, which you think either means "welcome, friends" or "the big pot is over there." Nunez, to his credit, reclaims his role as leader. He slowly raises his hands, palms open, to show he has no weapon. He takes a tentative step forward. Then he points at you and the other survivors. Then he points at his own mouth and makes a gesture of eating. Then he points out to the vast, empty ocean. He is trying to tell your story in the simple, universal language of gesture. We are hungry. We came from the sea. The leader of the native group, a tall man with a necklace of polished shells and what look like animal teeth, watches him impassively. He speaks to his men in a language of soft clicks and guttural sounds that means nothing to you. For a long, agonizing minute, nothing happens. This standoff, you realize, is the most dangerous moment of your life. More dangerous than the storm. More dangerous than the lottery in the boat. Your fate is being decided by men whose minds you cannot read, whose customs you do not know. Then, the leader gives a slight nod. One of the other men steps forward. He is carrying a woven bag. He reaches into it and pulls out something dark and round, and offers it to Nunez. It is a piece of fruit you have never seen before. This is the critical moment. A test. To refuse the gift would be an insult, a declaration of distrust. To accept it could be to ingest an unknown poison. Nunez hesitates for only a second. Then he takes the fruit, bows his head in a gesture of thanks, and takes a bite. He chews slowly, then swallows. He nods to the native leader and forces a weak smile. The tension in the air lessens. Just slightly, a bridge of trust, fragile and tentative, has been built. This first contact, so fraught with peril, is a story that has played out countless times during your age of discovery. The results were wildly unpredictable. Sometimes, peaceful trade was established. Other times, immediate, brutal violence erupted. Your fate depends entirely on the disposition of this specific group of people. The leader of the natives gives a command. He gestures for you and your group to follow them. You have no choice. To stay here would be to starve. To refuse would be to invite their wrath. You are now their prisoners, or their guests. You do not know which. You stumble after them, away from the beach and into the deep. Green twilight of the jungle. They move through the dense undergrowth with an effortless silence that astounds you. You and your men crash and stumble behind them. Your bare feet, unaccustomed to the jungle floor, catching on roots. Your bodies clumsy and weak. After a walk of perhaps a mile, you emerge into a large clearing. You have arrived at their village. It is a collection of well-made huts, larger and cleaner than your own crude shelter. There are women, their bodies also painted, tending to cooking fires. There are children, who stop their play to stare at you with wide, curious eyes. You are led to the center of the village and told, through gestures, to sit. You are an object of intense curiosity, a creature from another world. You try to offer a gift in return. To solidify the fragile peace, this is the custom of travelers the world over. But what do you have? You own nothing but the rags on your back. You remember the small, pewter button on your tattered breeches? You manage to wrench it off. You hold it out to the chief. It is a dull, worthless piece of metal to you. But he takes it, his eyes gleaming with interest. To him, this piece of manufactured metal, so different from the stone and shell and wood of his world, may be a rare and powerful treasure. You are given food and water. The water is cool and clean, from a deep well. The food is a kind of thick, starchy porridge. Strange to your palate, but deeply nourishing. You eat, and as you do, you begin to truly understand your situation. These people are your saviors. They have given you food and water. They have the knowledge to survive and thrive in this place that was killing you. But as you look around the village, you also see the other side of their reality. You see the sharpened points of their spears. You see a collection of animal skulls and what you fear might be human skulls, decorating a large ceremonial hut. You realize that their hospitality is not guaranteed. You are completely and utterly at their mercy. Your life depends on their continued goodwill. A goodwill you cannot understand or predict. The discovery of new lands, you are beginning to learn, is a complex and often violent affair. The traditional stories you heard back home were of brave explorers bringing civilization to savage peoples. But sitting here, a weak, starving, and ignorant refugee, being fed by the grace of these strong, knowledgeable, and self-sufficient people, you see the lie in that narrative. You are the savage here. You are the one who does not know how to survive. As night falls, you are shown to an empty hut where you and your men are to sleep. The sounds of the village are strange and unfamiliar. The language? The music of a simple flute. The laughter. You lie down on a woven mat. Your belly full. Your thirst quenched. You are safer than you have been at any point since the storm hit. But you are also more powerless than ever before. You have been rescued from the wilderness of the island, only to be thrown into the far more complex and unpredictable wilderness of human interaction. Your fate is no longer in your own hands. It rests entirely in the hands of the unknown people who now hold you in their power. You are now a guest in the village, a prisoner, a pet, a ghost. You are not sure which. The days turn into weeks, the weeks into months. The sharp, immediate terror of your ordeal has faded, replaced by a long, slow, and grinding psychological struggle. You are alive, but you are in limbo. A man caught between two worlds, belonging to neither. Your life settles into a new routine. You live on the periphery of the village society. You are treated with a mixture of cautious hospitality, curiosity, and a faint underlying suspicion. You are a curiosity. The strange, pale-skinned man from the sea. The children sometimes follow you, giggling, pointing at your sun-bleached hair and your strange, ragged clothes. The elders watch you with wise, unreadable eyes. You learn. You watch how they fish. Not with nets, but with sharp, multi-pronged spears in the shallow waters of the lagoon. You learn which roots are safe to eat after they have been boiled for a full day, and which will kill you. You learn how to weave the tough fibers of a palm leaf into a serviceable rope. You are a clumsy student. Your hands and mind shaped by a different world, but you learn enough to contribute. To not be a complete burden. You are grateful for your survival, but you cannot let go of the hope of returning to your own world. This limbo is a form of psychological torture. The language barrier is a grate. Thick wall. You pick up a few of their words for water, food, danger. They, in turn, learn a few of yours. But any deep communication, any real understanding of their complex beliefs, their social rules, their history, is impossible. You live among them, but you are utterly alone in your own mind, your own memories. The other survivors from the longboat are your only link to your past. But that bond is frayed. You are all haunted by what you did in that boat to survive. The memory of the lottery is a ghost that sits between you. One of the men, unable to reconcile the act with his Christian faith, simply wastes away, consumed by his own guilt. Another goes native, taking a local wife, building his own hut, and trying to forget the world he came from. You are caught in the middle, unable to fully join this new world, and unable to return to your old one, your most valuable possession. The one thing that gives you a unique status is your sailor's knife. It is a simple tool of cheap steel, but in this world of stone and wood, it is an object of incredible power. You can carve with a precision they cannot match. You can sharpen a spear to a finer point. This small piece of metal gives you a purpose, a value. It is the only currency you have. But every single morning, you perform the same ritual. You wake, and you walk to the highest point of the beach, and you stare out at the eastern horizon. You scan the vast, empty line where the sea meets the sky. You are looking for a sail. It is a ritual of hope, the one thing that connects you to your old life. Most days, there is nothing. The ocean is a great blue, empty desert. The hope dwindles. The days blur into seasons. The seasons into years. How long has it been? 5 years, 7. You are no longer sure. You have stopped counting. You measure time in rainy seasons and dry seasons now. You look at your reflection in a still pool of water, and you do not recognize the man you see. His skin is the color of dark leather, burned by years of a sun you were not born under. His hair is long, bleached, and matted. His eyes are the eyes of a wild thing, the Portuguese sailor. The man from a small fishing village is gone. You are someone else now, a man of the island. You are sitting on the beach one afternoon, mending a fishing net. Your movements slow and practiced. You are not thinking about rescue anymore. The hope has faded so completely that it is no longer a conscious thought. It is just a dull, forgotten ache. Like an old scar, you are watching the waves, and you are at peace. A resigned, empty kind of peace. And then you see it. At first, you think it is a cloud, a strange, low-lying cloud on the horizon. But it is not a cloud. It is too sharp, too white, too regular. It is a shape you have not seen in years. A shape you thought you would never see again. It is a sail, and then another beside it, a European ship, a great galleon. It sails full in the wind. Your heart stops. For a moment, you cannot breathe. The world, which has been a slow, green and blue reality, suddenly snaps into a sharp, painful focus. The hope that you thought was dead explodes in your chest with the force of a physical blow. You scramble to your feet, your hands shaking, a wild, choked cry escaping your throat. You run down the beach, waving your arms, screaming, your voice a raw, unused thing. Here I am, here. The ship sees you. It sees the smoke from the fire that you have, by sheer force of habit, kept burning for all these years. It changes course. Coming closer, you see a boat being lowered. You see men with pale faces and strange, unfamiliar clothing rowing towards your shore. You are being rescued. The dream you have clung to for years is coming true, and you are filled with a joy so intense it is almost indistinguishable from terror. You must leave. You must leave this island that has been your prison and your sanctuary. You must leave the native people who have been your captors and your saviors. You must leave the strange life you have built here. The sailors in the boat stare at you as if you are a wild man, a savage, and you realize, with a shock, that you try to speak to them in your own language. But the words are clumsy, foreign in your own mouth after years of disuse. They pull you into their boat. As you sail away from the island, you look back at it until it is just a green smudge on the horizon once more. You are on the deck of a great ship again, surrounded by men who look like you but with whom you have nothing in common. They ask you questions you cannot answer. They talk of kings and wars you have never heard of. You are returning to a world that has moved on without you. You have been saved. But as you stand on that deck, the familiar motion of a ship beneath your feet, you know, with a deep and certain sorrow, that you can never truly go home. A part of you, the man who was born on that island of despair and survival, will be a castaway forever, left behind on that distant, lonely shore. And so, the rescued man sails away, a stranger in a familiar world. His story a testament to the endurance of the human spirit and the scars that survival leaves behind. Let the image of him on the deck of that ship, watching his island disappear, begin to fade. Let the vastness of the ocean and the intensity of his ordeal recede. Back into the quiet realm of history, his long, desperate wait is over. And now, your own day is done, and your own time for rest has come. Bring your attention back to the gentle reality of your own room. Feel the comforting weight of your blanket, a safe harbor in the quiet night. Feel the steady, solid presence of the bed beneath you, an anchor in a calm and peaceful sea. You are not adrift, you are not lost. You are home, you are safe. Listen to the soft sounds of your own world, the gentle hum of the air, the quiet settling of your home. Let each sound be a reassurance, a reminder that the great, terrifying storms of the past are far, far away. The only journey you need to take now is the gentle, easy drift into sleep. There is nothing more required of you tonight. No need to keep a fire lit. No need to watch the horizon. You can let go of the watch. You can let go of the day. Allow the last of your thoughts to dissolve like salt in the water, and let the gentle, quiet tide of slumber carry you out into a deep, calm, and restorative ocean of dreams.